I'm talking to you today because today is the 27th of January and it's actually Holocaust Memorial Day. Now the reason it's commemorated on this day is because on the 27th of January 1945, that's when the Soviet Union liberated Auschwitz. Now I often get asked the question by students, why were the Jews persecuted? It's important to remember it wasn't just the Jews who were persecuted in Auschwitz. Slavs were persecuted at Auschwitz and other concentration camps, as were homosexuals, as were communists. But the biggest group that were persecuted were Jewish people. Now, throughout history, anti-Semitism has been on the rise, and as Christianity became the dominant religion in Europe, the Jews were persecuted. An example of this is getting blamed for the Black Death in 1348. The Jewish population were accused of poisoning the water. Now, flash forward to the 1920s and post-World War I Germany. The Germans have had to sign the Treaty of Versailles. Hyperinflation's hit, and the depressions then occurred in the 1930s. Discontent in the country is really high, and Hitler blames the Jews for these problems. They're a convenient scapegoat. When the Nazis came to power in 1933, the Jewish persecution began to increase. In April 1933, the Nazis urged Germans to boycott Jewish stores. They went with the slogan, "If you buy from a Jew, you are a traitor to the country. German women remember, boycott the Jews." A week later, all Jewish people were sacked from civil service jobs. As time went on, the persecution of the Jews only got worse. On 15th of September 1935, the Nuremberg race laws were brought into effect. This recognised that the purity of blood is essential to the survival of the German race, and the Reichstag unanimously passed the following laws. Marriage between Jews and German citizens is forbidden. Sexual relations between Jews and German citizens outside of marriage are forbidden. Jews may not employ any female German citizen under 45 years of age, and it is forbidden for Jews to display the German flag. These Nuremberg laws essentially lost all Jewish citizens of their citizenship. On the 9th of November 1938, the Nazis launched a government-inspired terrorist campaign against the Jews, which is to become known as Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass. Over 7,000 Jewish shops and businesses have been destroyed and some 300 synagogues burned down. 200 Jews were murdered and 25,000 Jewish men sent to concentration camps at Dachau, Buchenwald and Sachsenhausen. On the 1st of September 1939, the Nazis invaded Poland. As a result of this, the UK and France declared war, but Poland was overpowered within weeks. The Nazis' original aim to force the Jews out of Germany and to encourage Jewish immigration was now finished. The millions of Jews living in Nazi-occupied areas were instead now concentrated into ghettos. In spring 1940, the Nazis established ghettos in the larger towns and cities across Poland. The largest ghetto was in Warsaw, where 400,000 Jews were crowded into 1.3 square miles of the city. Other ghettos include those in the city of Lodz, Krakow, Lublin and Minsk. Many thousands of Western European Jews were also deported to ghettos in the east. Some ghettos had walls built around them, whilst others were marked out with barbed wire. They were nearly always in the poorest areas of town and desperately cramped with poor sanitation. As time went on, food restrictions were introduced and terrible conditions led to hundreds of thousands dying from disease or malnutrition, or the casual executions carried out by the Nazis. The horrors of the extermination camps are what most people primarily associate with the Holocaust. However, the attempt to murder all the Jews in Europe began with the mass shootings outside the camps on the Eastern Front after the Nazi invasion of the USSR in June 1941. The Einsatzgruppen grouping were mobile killing units whose tasks were to kill racial or political enemies by mass shootings. They massacred entire Jewish communities and also killed communists, Roma and residents of institutes for the mentally and physically disabled. Jews in a town or city were marched into pits outside the settlement where they were systematically shot. The most notorious case of these was Baba Yar on the edge of Kiev. The Nazis ordered all the Jews of Kiev to assemble. In just over 2 days, over 33,000 people were marched in a ravine where they were murdered. By the end of 1941, more than 1 million Jews had been murdered by mobile killing squads. Nearly all of the 200,000 Jews in Lithuania were killed in this way. However, SS leaders began to become concerned about the scale of slaughter that was having on the mental health of their troops, so they began experimenting with alternative methods of killing. Vans were adapted which pumped their interiors full of carbon monoxide. Killing by gas had already been pioneered by the Nazis when they killed severely disabled people between 1939 and 1940, and it was used here by the Einsatz grouping. These gas vans were used at Chelmno, the first extermination camp, and led to the development of permanent gas chambers in all extermination camps. In January 1942, the Wannsee Conference was held on the outskirts of Berlin. Here the Nazis planned the mass deportation of European Jews to extermination camps in German-occupied Poland where they would be murdered. The final solution aimed to exterminate all Jews in Europe. Freight and passenger trains were used for the deportations. Prisoners were sealed inside with little or no room to sit or lay down. No food or water was provided for those on the trains, which were intensely hot during the summer and freezing cold during the winter. Apart from a bucket, there was no sanitary facilities, adding to the indignity faced by those being deported. Journeys often lasted several days, and sometimes they took weeks. Many of those packed onto these trains died during the journey to the camps through starvation or overcrowding. Arrival in these extermination camps, like Auschwitz-Birkenau, started with a selection process. Men, women, children were removed from the trains and had their valuables taken away. Men were separated from women and children. A Nazi physician would quickly assess whether each person was healthy enough to use for forced labour, and based on this visual inspection, individuals were sent to camps or to the gas chambers. The disabled, elderly, pregnant women, babies, young children or sick stood little chance of surviving this selection. Those who were selected for death were led to the gas chambers, and in order to prevent panic, some victims were told they were going to showers to remove the lice from their bodies. They were made to hand over any remaining valuables and remove all their clothes. After being ushered into the gas chambers, the doors would be shut and bolted. The poison took up to 20 minutes to kill those in the chambers. Camp prisoners were then forced by the SS guards to remove the corpses from the chambers and to remove hair, gold teeth and fillings. The corpses were then burned in the crematoria. As Allied troops began to progress across Nazi-occupied Europe, they began to uncover concentration extermination camps. Nazi forces burnt down the crematoria and mass graves in attempts to hide the crimes that were committed. They organised death marches of some of the remaining prisoners back into Germany across Poland. Soviet soldiers liberated Auschwitz-Birkenau on 27th of January 1945, and they found 7,000 survivors in the smouldering remains of gas chambers and crematoria. I'm going to read you a short extract now from the book The Twins of Auschwitz, which is a true story of a young girl surviving the camp. On the morning of the 27th of January, the noise stopped. For the first time in weeks, it was completely silent. We hoped this was liberation, but we had no idea what liberation would be like. Everyone in the barracks crowded at the windows. It was snowing heavily. Until this day, I only remember the camp being grey, the buildings, streets, clothes, people, everything dirty and grey. In my mind, a constant, smoky pall hung over the camp. On this day, sometime late in the afternoon, maybe about 3 or 4 p.m, a woman ran to the front of the barracks and started yelling, "We are free! We are free! We are free!" It's important that we don't forget about the lessons of the past. It's important that we never forget the Holocaust. And since the Holocaust in World War II, there actually has been numerous others, such as Cambodian genocide and Rwandan genocide since then. Tonight at 7 p.m, is an online memorial for the victims of the Holocaust. I'm actually going to post the link in the feed so you'll be able to sign up and watch it. Also at 8 p.m, it's your choice, and if it's safe to do so, you can light a candle for the victims.